thank you to everyone for joining us here today as we discuss the relevant and exciting topic of artificial intelligence, AI, in education. As technology continues to advance, educators are looking for ways to enhance teaching and learning in safe, effective and scalable ways. In today's discussion, we're going to be exploring the role of AI in education, its capacity to benefit learners, but also its potential pitfalls if not harnessed responsibly. Being at the forefront of change and development, Wellington College Hangzhou is collaborating with researchers, technology developers and experts in the field to develop our use of AI for pupils and staff. One such expert is our guest, Mark Anderson, educational technology consultant and self-labelled ICT evangelist, who is joined by Stuart Brown, Head of Senior Schools, and Matthew Coleman, Head of Primary at Wellington College Hangzhou. Mark, welcome to our campus. Please could you introduce yourself and explain the significance of AI?
Brilliant. Well, thank you for the lovely introduction, Hattie. Hi everybody. My name is Mark Anderson. I'm a former teacher, middle and senior leader with more than 20 years experience in the classroom. I stopped teaching and leading back in 2015 because I wanted to continue the impact I was having in my community but share that furthermore around the world. And since that time I've had the pleasure of not just working with many schools around the UK but around the rest of Europe, the Middle East and the Far East as well. So along that time as well, I've also had the great opportunity, because my specialism is teaching and learning with technology. During that time, I've had the great opportunity to work with lots of technology companies as well. So I'm really pleased to be able to sort of say that Microsoft, Apple and Google, for example, are former clients. In fact, I worked with Google and spoke with Google about this very topic at the Education Festival at Wellington College in England back in the summer. I also have got a few badges to my name, so I'm a founding fellow of the Chartered College of Teaching. My blog has won the UK Education Blog of the Year award, these sorts of things. So going on to AI, technology has the opportunity to do many things. But in all my years of teaching and using technology, I've never been quite so excited as I am right now. The opportunities that AI provide us are absolutely huge, and it's evolved massively. You know, back from when I was a child and watching television programs where we'd see artificial intelligence in robots and films about the end of the world and all these different things. I don't think that's going to happen, but certainly we've seen evolution of AI happening in our own pockets. The reason my phone is here right now, we've got assistants on our phones, things like Siri, so forth and so on. We might be using social media apps like Douyin, where the algorithms behind the scenes put content in front of us that it already knows that we like. So we're seeing AI already impacting on our lives every single day. Suggestions being made for us, things when we're going shopping, the things we might have been talking about in our lounges or in our houses. We then see, you know, if you're talking about a holiday somewhere, you then suddenly magically see those holidays being advertised on the websites that we visit. This is AI in action behind the scenes. But about a year ago, generative AI became a really big thing. A company we'll all be aware of, OpenAI, develops a tool called ChatGPT. And that has really sort of rocketed and changed everything. And we've seen massive advancements in the use of AI across the piece in education since that time. And we'll dive more into that in the course of this conversation. But as you'll discover, everybody, I can talk an awful lot, but I want to give others the opportunity to jump in.
Thank you very much for those fronts. Now, you've spoken quite a lot about how AI is impacting our normal everyday lives. So why is it now that it's so important that we discuss AI in education?
Well, there's great opportunity. Okay, so quoting Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you know, as educators, we've got a moral imperative to do the best by the young people that we work with. Okay, and so it's absolutely incumbent upon us to make the best use of the tools that we've got. So technology, like anything, is part of your teaching and learning toolkit. So to talk about traditional things that we'll all be aware of. You know, when we've been at school, when we were younger, we would use things like protractors, compasses, pencils, rulers, these different sorts of things. Now, we don't use them all the time, but we know when it's right to use them and not to use them, right? Okay, well, technology is just like that. and the ability for AI to help us and support us as educators and to support learners with their understanding and their knowledge and their skills is absolutely huge. So the fact it's so readily available and it's there right now to make us more efficient, to help reduce workload, to help personalise feedback, to help with differentiation, to best support our learners. All these different things are all part and parcel of why now, because it's readily available and so simple to dive into.
Absolutely. And Matthew, what would you like to, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I just think, just to add to what Mark's saying, really, the use of AI is evident in industries all across the world, and education should be at the forefront of one of those industries that uses AI. We see that AI is used in shopping recommendations, essay writing, voice assistance, so there's no reason why we shouldn't be having these conversations now, and we shouldn't be acting on how AI is used proactively in education. I think the reason we should use it now is because it can have immediate impact on learning, and it can have an immediate impact on teaching, and we can move forward quite swiftly with that now.
Excellent. Thank you.
I mean, I would just like to add another well-used phrase, paradigm shifts. AI presents an opportunity for us to do things that haven't been easily accessible or even possible previously. And so in the classroom, that opens up a whole new realm of ways of learning, ways of collaborating, ways of generating materials that I think is very exciting. We also, as educators, have to be responsive to the future. Our children are going to be going into the workforce when they leave us or after university, and there's a very high chance that the paradigm shifts that take place around us now are going to have a huge impact upon the jobs that the children will be doing when they get there. So therefore, as educators, it's impossible to future-proof anything, but we can definitely take steps to ensure that our children are as well prepared as possible for an AI-enhanced future as we can.
Absolutely. I think this is all preparing the students for a future that we cannot envisage, in the same way that when we were students, we probably wouldn't envisage that we'd be having this discussion now about AI and how that impacts our daily lives. Thank you very much. It's clear that the implications stretch far beyond the classroom to future careers and society in general. Okay? For those of you who have just entered the live stream, you are now watching Wellington Talk live at Wellington College, Hangzhou. Today we have our panellists discussing the popular subject of AI in education. You can click to follow our school's WeChat channel and WeChat official account. So let's talk about the learning then. Is AI enabling improved support for learners?
No, absolutely. And to sort of paraphrase Stuart, technology gives us the opportunity to do things that wouldn't be possible without the technology. And so again, it's morally incumbent upon us to be using these technologies. So you'll be very pleased to hear that Wellington are already making use of products, EdTech, educational technology products that capitalise on artificial intelligence. So one such tool created by Priya Lakhani, MBE, back in the UK, is a tool called SentryTech. SentryTech is a tool that students are already making use of here at the college, and what it enables learners to do is to practice and practice and practice the things that they've been learning in their classes, and then based upon how well they're succeeding, it can provide further stretch and challenge, or if they need it, takes it back. So straight away, that personalisation of learning, differentiation, enabling things that specifically for individual learners are happening right now. On top of that, resource creation. Teachers are very time poor. They have to do an awful lot of work to best support your children, right? And that's what you want them to do. You want them to work really hard. But you can only use time once. And so I think it's absolutely right that teachers across the college are starting to use the technology to really help and support them. So a simple example. A teacher's got a reading text, but because a child's English isn't particularly very good, it might be the case that they need that text at a younger reading age. Okay, now the teacher's very able to rewrite that, but why would they need to when they can pop that exact same text, copy and paste it into an AI tool like ChatGPT and ask it to change it to a lower reading age? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. because it's the content that's important. The teacher's still the person in charge, but it enables them to create those things sort of far more quickly. AI is also really good at data analysis, okay? Because teachers need information, not data, okay? Information is data with context, and so the AI can take that data and then transform it to give teachers the insights they need so that they can make those decisions to best support those young people in their classrooms as well. So there are so many ways it's enabling improved support for learners. I could talk about it all day. It's fantastic.
Excellent. I think it's that personalisation that's really quite empowering, actually. And Stuart, I believe that you've been bringing in BYOD as part of a new initiative.
So we have to have the devices ready to support the future world of education. So here at the college we have brought in a BYOD program which is designed to familiarise all of our children with their own device to enhance ease of use. You know, to make the children much more capable and aware of actually what the device can do and the ways they can find to get their jobs, get their work done quicker and get it done easier. So the BYOD program, I think, is kind of like a big first step and a bold statement towards our commitment to the integration of AI and learning tools kind of across the campus. Picking up on Century Tech, I'm a huge fan of Century Tech. Century Tech has a massive positive impact upon student outcomes because they can go through an AI-generated pathway, as we were discussing previously, that is adapted to them. So a big part of the future of AI in education is going to be about the adaptability of resources or the personalisation of learning. And for me that's super exciting because you know, in a class of 24 pupils you have 24 separate individual learning journeys and teachers are time poor, you know, echoing many of your points. AI speeds up the generation of those materials to allow for each student's needs to be well catered for. The use of BYOD laptop scheme enables very familiar children to have access to these devices, which therefore will streamline the personalisation and the accessibility of the learning in the future. So very exciting developments that I think, again, come back to the point I made about a paradigm shift, are really going to have a solid positive impact upon our practice in the classroom for the better.
I think what we're learning here is that AI is so powerful and harnessed in the right way, we could really make such huge positive changes for our learners. So how do you think the integration of AI in education influenced the developments of pupils' skills?
It's a really interesting question, actually, and I was talking to my dad. My dad is 70 years old and he's a former head teacher from the UK, and he asked me this a couple of weeks ago and said, what's this AI ChatGPT thing? You know, is it going to have a negative influence on children? All children do is spend their time on mobiles and laptops. And actually we got into a good discussion about how collaboration is a skill that children need. They need to learn to work together, and AI and educational technology will never replace face-to-face collaboration and the importance of being amongst peers and working with other human beings. However, it definitely does work to enhance collaboration. We've already seen multiple learning tools which will support the peer-to-peer collaboration. It will enable pupils to give other pupils feedback, and it will also support in giving pupils personalised feedback and tailoring how they give feedback. So I think when we start to look at it as a support tool, which we've talked about a few times, and not a replacement, we can start to see that there's benefits that will go far beyond developing, you know, children as a whole child and the skill sets that they have.
Absolutely. I think there is that fear that the face-to-face interaction might disappear and we would turn into some kind of sci-fi world. And I think that's our role now, to explore where is the healthy balance between that.
I'll jump into that because people say to me, you know, or ask me the question, so will AI replace teachers? Right, and the AIs are really good at lots and lots of things, okay, but they can only mimic things that we do. And so when I'm talking about sort of turning data into information, you know, analysing data in a spreadsheet, all these sorts of things, AI is super good at those sorts of things. But with too many variables, the things like emotional intelligence, and the ability to teachers have that sort of teacher radar, don't they, where you know when something's not quite right with somebody because you pick up on visual cues or all these sorts of things. AI can't do that, okay, because it's only just mimicking what we do. It can't actually do what we do. So utilising AI to facilitate and inform our decision making from the insights it gives us from these sort of things is super important, but we are the people, the humans in the room, that can actually make that big difference, so that we have the biggest impact to try and support our young people in what they're trying to do. So an example as well where AIs can really help young people, as somebody who works with students in post-16, lots of the work you will be doing will be about supporting young people with their sort of statements to try and get into various universities. Generative AI tools like ChatGPT are really good at playing the roles of coaches. So you can actually prompt the generative AI to be a cue. You can put in your personal statements, how can I improve this? I need to practice for my interview. Could you play the role of interviewer and ask me some questions, and you can respond to it. There are other generative AI tools as well beyond ChatGPT. There's a great app you can get called Hey Pi, and using the sort of parent example, my mother had the same sort of conversation with me. She said, what's this AI stuff, Mark? I said, well, you want to try this? And she opened up the Pi app and she started talking to it. It's a voice interface. So you can actually have a conversation with them. And my mum's got really bad arthritis. And actually, by the end of the conversation, the AI was giving her exercise techniques to improve her arthritis in her hands. So our young people have got access to these tools that can really help them. It's not going to replace us, but it gives them the opportunity to practice and practice and practice so that they can perform at the best when it matters for them.
Oh no, absolutely. Working with the older students and their personal statements and personal essays, we have given that advice of use it as a tool, absolutely, because there's no shying away from it. We can't ban them from using it entirely because that's unreasonable and unrealistic.
No, absolutely, and so the young people will be using it, right? But we've got a moral imperative again to make sure that we facilitate them in the ways that they can use it responsibly themselves.
Exactly.
Digital citizenship is good citizenship, and so helping to support them with navigating what is a brave new world for many of them is only a good thing, I think.
Absolutely, and it is using it to make sure that it's still telling their story, that we're not losing the personal part of the personal statements and so forth. And Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here though, but to talk a little bit about assessment models. The assessment models that still exist in education around the world are still very much exam based. So we put children into an exam in rows and we don't give them any technology, they write on a piece of paper, and then when they go to the world of work they're surrounded by technology and surrounded by AI. So there's an interesting situation developing which is related to the independence and ownership of things like coursework and personal statements that I just don't feel that the educational kind of movement has necessarily answered yet. There will have to be changes to accommodate these tools because these two tools are significantly better and more capable than they ever have been historically. We do have an imperative, I agree, to teach children how to be good citizens, good digital citizens, and yet if you have an essay to write under a deadline and ChatGPT can take the load of the work off, I think many children and adults would probably choose to go down that AI route as well. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, again, echoing the point about global citizenship, assessment models are still fixed. However, the world is changing and it's likely that education is going to have to make some significant changes in order to catch up with the way that people will now behave with these tools that are more available. And I think it's a fascinating and as yet unanswered kind of debate about actually what the implications are for us as educators. I mean, the IB came out, the IB International Baccalaureate Organisation, with a very bold statement about exactly that. You know, it is a tool and we encourage it to be used. I'm fully supportive of that as a movement, but the impact that might have on, say, GCSE coursework can't be overlooked. And we're still kind of in that middle ground where we're just not yet quite sure exactly what the implication is going to be. So we have to focus on the things that are in our control, and that is proper use. That's education of our students. That's making sure that the children are aware of all of these resources, but using them in the right way, I suppose.
Yeah, if I could just add to that as well, I mean, I think it actually drills down and makes some of our core curriculum even more important than it ever has done.
Agreed.
So, you know, literacy and numeracy are obviously, you know, the cornerstone, the bedrock of every subject. Okay, but when you're interacting with a system, you need that ability to know how to paraphrase, to iterate, and it's not just literacy and numeracy, it's sort of computational thinking. You know, how to get in there and iterate and debug the text. Why isn't the response working quite as I want it to? And the ability to interact with these systems is only going to be improved and bettered by having strong numeracy and literacy skills.
Agreed.
So it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The you know, getting rid of all, you know, AI is going to do everything for me. It's going to write my coursework for me. Absolutely not. It reinforces the bedrocks of a good, strong curriculum, I think.
Absolutely. And
Oh, no, I was going to add to that again, and coding, the presence of coding. So yes, absolutely, our children have to be able to write, they have to understand you know, the more traditional core subjects, but I'd argue that coding as a language in its own right is just gaining significance massively, not because we want children to go off and necessarily be coders themselves, but a fundamental understanding of computer language is going to be so important for them to be able to access these tools in the future.
It absolutely is, because the truth of the matter is, your ChatGPT is brilliant at writing code. But what you need is people who, is young people or adults, you know, who understand how to code, so that they can be the people to then interrogate what's there, to improve it, to develop it, to iterate it, to make it even better, so that the AI can do the heavy lifting. And that's where the human element comes in, because you're able to direct it and channel it in the ways that you actually want it to be able to go, which is what the AI can't do.
which actually leads very nicely into the next question, which is how can AI improve the teaching? So you've mentioned a few methods whereby it can be a time-saving tool for data analysis or differentiating certain pieces of work. Are there any other instances where you feel that it could be beneficial?
We could be here far longer than we've actually got time for, but workload reduction, we touched upon that, but for creating lesson plans. One thing that I do with some of the training that I do is to get the AI to interrogate a PDF. So if you've got a new syllabus coming in, you want to actually unpick what are the new, where's the improvements, where's the differences from the last one, so forth and so on. Again, these are things that can take an awful lot of time. These are meaty documents. So again, AI is really good at quickly analysing things and spitting out information. Okay, so allow it to do the heavy lifting, and then get it to summarise it for you. And then, because it can link into other tools, ask it to pop it into a presentation for you so you can share it with colleagues, or ask it to draft an email for you that you can then send to colleagues, highlighting what the changes, I think the improvements, differences are, all those sorts of things. We're talking an awful lot about text as well, but actually there are some great AI systems that enable you to generate images and things as well. So Microsoft, in conjunction with OpenAI, have recently introduced a new version of a tool that's called DALL-E. DALL-E 3, which again from a prompt would generate images, and they've embedded that for free inside Bing Chat. So if you go into Bing, which is Microsoft's browser tool, go to Bing Chat and type illustration and then type what you want as an illustration. It will do that. So if I was a biology teacher and I want a nice resource, illustration, an image of a water cell showing the mitochondria, the nucleus, the cell wall. So again, I'm still having my knowledge, my expertise and all these things, but I'm not a graphic designer, right? Create me an image that has all these things and label it. Do it. And again, it creates a brilliant image you can then use as a resource. So again, resource creation is absolutely massive. And then again, thinking, we talked about it a bit earlier, and this is where things like SentryTech are really, really good as well, because not only does it support learners in a differentiated way by them getting personalised learning pathways through these tools, what it does is give fantastic insights. Yeah, so you then know where misconceptions are, where problems are, so you can then best support students. So another tool which has been used an awful lot, we've been exploring that in nursery as well, is a tool from Microsoft called Reading Progress, where learners can practice their oracy, and we know oracy is so important in supporting learning. So learners can practice their oracy into the assignments, and it recognises how well they're doing with their reading, their pronunciation, their intonation, all these different things. It then gives teachers the feedback on how they've done, say where the errors are. There's even the opportunity for the tools to then go back and coach the young person, and the teachers get the insights on how all that is happening as well. So again, it's not about taking control away from the teachers, it's giving them the support and power to best support progress and development of the young people that they're obviously charged with helping and supporting.
Sure, absolutely. I think we're just in this quite difficult period actually, because we are teaching to an assessment model which is basically the same as Victorian times, but we've got a completely different world at the other end after higher education, and so it is trying to balance this world, and this is why it's really exciting now that we're looking at how to enhance this technology and so forth. And what about you think about the for secondary schools?
Sorry, I'm going to go off on another tangent. Did anyone see the photographs that were produced after the coronation in the UK of the members of the UK royal family dancing in different poses in a looked like a gentleman's club, a working man's club, sorry, in the UK. Those photos looked so good, and yet they were obviously completely fake. And bringing it back to kind of improvements in teaching, critical thinking. The ability, again, fundamental skills to assess the materials that are being produced with creativity. So being able to use the tools to further enhance what teachers are doing in the classroom in ways that previously were completely inconceivable. And I think that's just so exciting for us as an opportunity. I'm sorry I had to jump in on that because those photos had such a lasting impression on me. They're absolutely fantastic. But again, I'm not a talented creative designer. However, I now have the ability to generate photos of myself and our family in funny situations and all the rest of it. So the 2 points for me, creativity. Even if you hadn't had the skills previously to create something that looks as fantastic as that, you now can. But we have the imperative as teachers to make sure that our children have even further enhanced critical thinking skills so that they can assess these materials when they're produced, to make sure that they have validity, to make sure they're true, make sure they're real. So I just wanted to jump in on that because you mentioned the creative photos.
If I just sort of come back to you on that as well, I think Stuart's highlighted two really key points there, because the one point goes back to this idea about digital citizenship, like we were talking about before, because it's really important that young people have the ability to, because young people are hugely curious anyway, right? But they need to question what they're seeing, is not just from the images but news. There's a lot of fake news around, and you see these little things in politics and all these different things, and obviously we want to be informed as individuals about what's going on around us in the world, not just in our local area but the world around us as well. So having that curiosity and knowing how to unpick those sort of things is super important, and that forms part of the curriculum around digital citizenship. The other side of it as well is it democratises things, right? So it means that everyone can be a designer, everyone can try these things. And the sort of thing you were talking about, Stuart, there's a great tool from Adobe called Firefly. So I could simply take a photograph of Stuart and I simply draw a brush on where his jacket is, and I can, or across his whole sort of top of his body, and I could put him in a gold sequin jacket, or I don't know who you support, but let's say you support Liverpool, I could put him in a Manchester United shirt. These sorts of things. It's really easy to do all these things that you don't really necessarily need a skill for. But it also gives us the opportunity to reinforce the skills and things we're learning about inside our classes. Because there's a great example. There's an art form called quilling, which is where you've got lots of bits of paper to form something. Now, I was working with some year 5s and 6s on quilling, okay? And they tried doing it by hand and so forth and so on. They went, well, what does a good one look like? So I was able to go onto Firefly, draw me an elephant using quilling, put some lovely colours in it. 30 seconds later, I've got an amazing quilled elephant that I can then show. And it means that when we're working with young people, they can actually get better outputs from the tools they're using based upon the actual real life things they've been learning about in class. And this is where it goes back to being that toolkit thing I was talking about before. Because it's absolutely right that children get paintbrushes out and paint and learn the skills, or do digital photography and learn about different lenses and foci and all these different things. But when you know those things, when you then interact with the systems, the AI tools that you've got available to you, you'll get much better results out of it from the learning you've had from actual core content learning in class.
Absolutely. So having played around with different lenses, they could say, actually, given with this focal length or with this technique and
Exactly
things.
right.
So the learning is still there. They still need to know the skills. And though they could put it into a software where they could ask it to produce things, they could still use their own knowledge to further enhance the final product.
That's it.
And
And it goes back to that literacy thing. So that's subject-specific literacy. So the output and the tool will do better from the things we learned in class. Going back to the cornerstone and bedrock of all the things we want to happen in class.
Yeah, great.
I was just going to say, just as I was thinking while you're talking, one thing that we're incredibly fortunate at Wellington College Hangzhou is to have our educational technology leaders across the campus, 5 leaders who are pioneering how our teachers are using it today in the classroom. And I asked one particular leader, what is actually happening at the moment? How are our teachers actually using AI in the classroom at this moment? And the top 3 things he gave me is, number 1, the teachers are using it already to enhance the type of questions that they ask children. So in their preparation, in their planning, they're looking at being critical themselves as well, and looking for AI to build a database of the type of questions that can stretch children's learning. So it's already influencing us in the classroom. The second one was about the real-time feedback, and that links very closely to Sentry Tech, and about how that can really support the learners in the classroom today. And the third one was about the increased accessibility for children and the communication tools that AI bring with them. Especially for some of our neurodiverse students, of our EAL students, and about how the importance of those type of additional tools can support those students to access their learning in the classroom as well. It was a really interesting and thoughtful piece, but it was refreshing as well to see that Wellington College Hangzhou is at the forefront of pushing forward with what's happening in the classroom.
Right. I think we've had some excellent examples of how AI has been utilised in the classroom. But as we've said, certainly me, I've been teaching for almost 20 years and I was never taught how to use AI. And this is something that I'm certainly going to go away and learn more about to further my practice. But what is the best way then to really give the most appropriate and best professional development for our teachers so that we can stay at the forefront of using AI in the classroom?
Well, you can obviously do what you're doing with me. But the truth of the matter is, being curious, and the things we want from our young people, we want from our colleagues as well. So that ability to tinker and to play and to try things out, but also using some of the C words that Matthew mentioned before about collaboration and communication and trying to be creative with these tools. Actually trying these things out and is one of the best ways to sort of find out what's best. I learned a lot of what I've learned from my prompt craft, which is a new sort of phrase. I'm sure it's going to be in the OED in the next sort of year or so. But I've gotten better at writing my prompts by writing more prompts and recognising that you're unlikely to get the results you want first time. So playing, iterating, and there's a process I use called the stair approach, which is when you're writing, like stepping up a stair rather than stare. When you're writing a prompt, be very, very specific for the T in the acrostic of stare, to tell it exactly what it is that you're trying to get it to try and do for you. On the A, to try and make it about everything you want it to actually do for you. And then the I is iteration, so recognise that it's not going to get it right first time, and try and have that sort of computational thinking behind it, recognising that, because sometimes people can be quite scared when they're using technology. If it doesn't work first time, you might never use it again, you know?
Which again comes down to the time-poor teachers.
Exactly.
If they don't have that time to do the multiple iterations, then they might be put off.
That's it, absolutely. And the R is to reflect on how you're getting on. Is it giving it what you want to? And then if it isn't giving it what you want to, then repeat and repeat and repeat and go again and again and again. So I've been distracted there. So being at the forefront of professional development, obviously engage with people and get training. But like Matthew was saying before as well, speak to colleagues across the college. Speak to colleagues within your different phases and from different ages as well, because actually often you can learn an awful lot more from colleagues working with younger or older. You know, having that cross college conversation is super important. And then actually recognising that education is a force for good is my final thing. So it's great that actually I've connected with all of you on things like LinkedIn. The ability for us to learn from each other and to share, because you know, every teacher I've ever met has got into teaching to help young people and make a difference. And many teachers share great practice. And so again, recognising that you can collaborate beyond the walls of the school, and that's why we have things like the Education Festival, bringing lots and lots of people together to learn and share and what have you from each other. So that's, I think, the best way we can make sure that teachers have the best professional development to be at the forefront of AI. And actually, when I went to Wellington College back in the summer for the Education Festival, as I walked through the door, the very first person I saw was Priya Lakhani, who is the founder and CEO of Century Tech, talking about these very issues.
Wonderful. Any ideas for what you might implement for your staff in your schools then to help develop use of AI?
I think just to add to what we've been talking about, the number one for me is involving practitioners. It's not something that we can move ahead with as an education industry if we don't involve the educators in the feedback loop of what actually works and doesn't work. The hands-on experience is absolutely imperative, that people are actually trying and feeding back and actually seeing what is successful and what isn't successful in the classroom, and that involves talking to the pupils and getting the pupils' experience of what is actually happening. And then the final one is you know, what we're doing here at the college, which is investing in the research and the evaluation of the AI products, and making sure that everything that we're finding out is then put back in and trialled within the classroom to see whether it works for us and for our context and for our pupils.
Okay.
One of the superpowers of the Wellington College kind of global group is exactly that. Collaborative opportunity amongst educators from a whole range of different countries, situations, backgrounds, and the ability to tap into that as a learning resource and as a tool. I think we invest a lot of time and money in professional development of our teachers, and we're very proud to do that. It's becoming one of the big selling points of our organisation, I think, that we do invest so much in developing our teachers to get better. So that philosophy, alongside the kind of the status within the Wellington College group, I think is a perfect opportunity for us to really stride ahead in the conversations around AI kind of use in the classroom, because we almost have the perfect kind of conditions to learn. And I'll go back to the BYOD programme. BYOD is about familiarity, giving teachers the opportunity to be more familiar with a risk-taking environment where they have the space and time to trial these activities is going to lead to early adoption. It's going to lead to, you know, more creative evaluation of the tools, and then hopefully improved efficiency of application. So yeah, I think the Wellington College China Group, the Wellington College Hangzhou School, we've got a lot of fantastic opportunities to make sure that our staff are at the cutting edge of this conversation.
Just want to add on to the whole sort of mention around research and things as well, and I wanted to sort of give credit to Wellington College Hangzhou for its use of research, because Matthew was mentioning sort of research around EdTech, but one of the things I absolutely love, because when it comes to technology for teaching and learning, I don't think it should be about the technology. It should be about what actually works for teaching and learning. And so lots of the conversations haven't been about the actual technology, but have been about starting with the problems you're trying to solve. So one of the things, John Hattie, one of the world's foremost researchers into what works for teaching and learning, talks about feedback. And feedback is, again, cornerstone of good teaching practice. And John Hattie talks about feedback where it should be just in time, just for me, just for what I need to move me forward in my learning journey, these sort of things, right? It also, someone else in research is a guy called Ebbinghaus, who came up with this idea about the forgetting curve. So if I teach you all something today, in 80 days you'll remember about 5 to 10% of what I've taught you. But if I revisit that in a sort of 5-6 day time, it will start to sort of smooth out that forgetting curve. So a second repetition should mean in about 80 days time, I'm then able to remember more like 40%. Repeat it again 10 days, it increases sort of 60, fifth time up to about 80, 90, so forth and so on. What's been lovely is seeing tools like SentryTech, which do things like, and is the choices you've made linked to the research about teaching and learning, rather than let's tick a box because we want to get a tool that's got AI, right? So you're using a tool which not only supports and gives that feedback quickly, so it's just just in time, so it's quick, just for me, personalised, just to help me move me forward with my learning journey, so it tells me what I need to do for the next steps. That's in there, brilliant. And then the tool also does the retrieval practice. So rather than you as teacher need to remember to, in 5 days time, remind the students about that thing or the intent, the software does that as well. And it's those sorts of informed choices around cognitive science and what we know about what works with teaching and learning that's informing your decisions about how you're working with your young people, rather than we must get a tool that's got AI in it because AI is what we're talking about and everyone's using AI, so we must be using AI. And it's not about that. So just want to celebrate and recognise what it is that you're doing, because that's absolutely the right way to try and approach these sort of things.
I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I think because it's such a hot topic at the moment that people are trying to tick that box of, okay, well, we use AI in our schools, look at us. But actually, what else do you think are the potential pitfalls as we enter this kind of new world of integrating AI within our classrooms?
Well, that's the thing, right? So technology, like I said before, has the opportunity and potential to change everything or nothing. So a recent example of a really sort of hot technology is virtual reality, right? But just because you can do these things doesn't necessarily mean that you should, right? Now, in some instances, in some industries, virtual reality is absolutely fantastic, right? If I'm looking to practice flying a plane and landing a plane, or steering a ship and steering it into a port, or if I'm an artist, actually practicing sculpting with really difficult materials. Some work I did with a school in the Middle East with VR was using a tool called Tilt Brush, which enabled that to actually happen. You'd use your paddles with the virtual reality headset on, and you could be sculpting things in space. But it's about, again, taking that opportunity to reflect on the why, the sort of Simon Sinek thing about, why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve? Rather than, oh crikey, there's a new technology, we must be seen to be using it. And actually, technology is all about, for me, making informed choices. There's a great model called the TPAC model. It's the technological, sorry, it's a bit of a mouthful, technological, pedagogical, content knowledge framework. And it starts on the basis of the PCK model, which is where you combine your pedagogical knowledge, so what you know about how to teach and what good teaching is, and your content knowledge, which is what you need to teach, and combining those two things together. So originally that was Schulman who did the PCK model, pedagogical content knowledge model. And a few years later, when technology became more prevalent, two other researchers, Kohler and Mishra, said, well, that's all very well and good, but where does technology fall into that? And so they brought in technological knowledge. And so it's a three-way Venn diagram with the three circles coming together with a sort of a sweet spot in the middle. The reason why I absolutely love that model, though, Hattie, is because in the middle there, you'd think it's about using technology all the time, and it's not. It's about mastery of technology. And so when you know what is possible with technology, being informed by what you've got to teach, and how you know how to teach it, that sweet spot in the middle is about making informed choices about whether it's right to or not to use the technology. So you're making that discerning choice. So whether it's AI, whether it's AR, whether it's VR, whether it's productivity tools like Word or PowerPoint or any of those sort of things, they can all support and enhance teaching and learning, but they can also do absolutely nothing. So when you combine and think about it in those sorts of ways and bring those domains together, that's where you can make sure that you're doing the right thing and will get the enhancements and the improvements, because you're using it for reasons based upon not really anything to do with the technology, but about what you're trying to achieve at the end goal of it.
Sure. And what would you say to parents who might be a little bit hesitant about us using too much technology or AI with our learners?
Well, we've touched upon it before, haven't we? And I'll speak directly to you at the camera and say this. And I say this as a parent myself. I've got two boys who are aged 12 and 14. They're going to be using it anyway. The first time I showed my children ChatGPT, they were like, wow, that's amazing. And the second thing they said was, can I get it to do my homework, Dad? We have a moral imperative, and this is what we were talking about before, to make sure that our young people know the ways in which, because they'll be using it anyway, right? We'll be using it anyway. We've got a moral duty and an imperative to make sure that we're helping them navigate all of these different things. Similarly, just like we're asking our young people to navigate safely on social media or anywhere online, you know, when a child crosses the road, when they're learning to walk, we don't just let them run across the road, do we? We hold their hand, and gradually, as they get older, so they learn to better cross the road by themselves. And it's exactly the same thing. And we don't want to tether our children and keep them on a lead or anything like those sort of things. We want them to be free to be able to try all these things out. So what is happening here across the college is they're being supported to use it in ways which can best support their progress, their learning, and doing so in a safe way. So the school has obviously all the protections and filters in place. Staff are getting the training, so they're knowing about impactful and positive, you know, good ways to use all these sorts of things. So if you have concern, try and think of it and go back to that analogy about teaching your child to cross the road. Because we want them to do those sorts of things. We want them to have freedom to move around and be safe out there while they're doing it. It's just the same in the digital world as well.
Absolutely. Right, before we close, Matthew and Stuart, is there anything else you'd like to add?
What an exciting world we're living in.
Absolutely.
Huge opportunities, and working with yourself is a huge privilege to ensure we are getting the strategy kind of focused and headed in the right direction. So thank you so much for spending time with us and being with us.
I'm absolutely loving it. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you.
Echo exactly the same. Thank you so much. Our pupils at Wellington College Hangzhou are incredibly lucky, as are the staff as well.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you.
This has been really informative. Thank you so much. As the development of AI charges forward, schools worldwide must adapt their education to ensure that pupils are equipped with not just the skills of knowing how to integrate AI in their learning, but also how to critically assess when it is appropriate. Learners must know when to use AI as an enhancement tool and when it is being excessively relied upon. It is crucial to continue the conversation and collaboration between all stakeholders to ensure that AI is used to its fullest potential in education. At Wellington College Hangzhou, we already provide world-class education for our pupils. Just imagine what greater successes will be achieved by harnessing the power of AI. We hope you enjoyed watching this live stream, and please follow us on our WeChat channel and WeChat official account. If you are interested in applying to our school, please add our admissions WeCom for more information. We look forward to seeing you next time. From the panel and me, thank you very much and goodbye.